Thank you for coming on into the live and sharing your essence with me in this eternal moment of which we all share an inextricable and inexorable part. Thank you for doing your part, for coming on in each and every day, and we'll do the same without wasting a single second of your time. Bada bing, bada boom, we go into the charts. So BTC getting a push up into a level up here at that 52.8 region, perhaps. Do we break on through to the other side or reject off a previous drop from September 7th and come on down a little bit of a pullback on Friday, February 16th? We got to bounce off the diagonal pitch fan 886 level that we've never broken out above since we've had it in over a year here. Does that mean we're on the path to a new region here, or are we going to see a revisit to the point of control down here at 42K at some point? Let's go ahead and take a look at the liquidity. What is the liquidity? Well, people lock their liquidity into the charts to get burnt to a crisp by the market maker for not using a stop loss, and we can see where those crispy characters are, so let's do it now. Okay, so in the last 24 hours we had 25 million in longs and 17 million in shorts as we essentially went sideways. And in the last 4 hours, a retrace into the longs with a little bit of a pop to the shorts for 4.68 on the longs and 1.8 million on the shorts. And in the last hour, a lot of alt shorts getting popped as people invest their money, take profits on BTC to put into alts.
Fatality.
So looking at what we can see in the heat map, let's go ahead and see what is available on the liquidity side of things. We have some 78 million up at 52.9, getting awfully hot down below in that 50,700 region. A lot of liquidity to be swept down here from the breakout here. We got the push up and the come down here, so we could see a retrace to a level and fade down into this 50k liquidity. This candle burst up was quite small, so coming back to test these levels would make sense. Let's go ahead and expand the viewpoint or vision to the higher time frame. 51k has 2.6 billion down at that 51 even Steven level. You had a breakout from that 48 level where nobody actually bought, so there's a gap in liquidity here. On if they were to break beneath 48k, they'd be aiming at lower prices. If they're holding 48k, they're just inducing liquidity to burst up on through to the other side. If we go to the yearly here, becomes harder to see, but you do have 18 billion down in that 33k region. Do we get, I doubt we get a retrace before the halving down to there, but you never know. That September 7th drop was mighty massive back here, so we could see a retrace coming into the halving period, recovering a lot all the way down to 39k, and it would not be absurd to think. All right, so let's go into the liquidity on another viewpoint here, and on the daily you have some up here in that 52.3 region. Large amount on the daily time frame up at that flash point at 53k. If you expand out to the weekly, you see that there's a large amount down at that 50k too. We were talking about 2 billion up there. Overall, a larger amount to the downside than the upside, but we've been punishing the shorts continually, so we'll see if that continues going forward. Let's go ahead and go into the Binance chart and take a look at what is in store. So this burst up from that 50k region was very threadbare in terms of liquidity here. There was no volume to that move. A lot of the volume inducing up here, people offloading their positions, getting people to buy up here. Does that mean they come back down to the point of control at 49k here on the daily time frame? That could be. There's another one down here for this region, but there's 2 points of control to contend with. Next one down at 48k. All right, so let's go ahead and look at the math. There's the math here would be on the left side here at where the external range that we're into. We came to this possibility we can come to the 706 level at 53,244 and possibly see a rejection off of that level. We have yet to get there. This is Friday. Once again, keeping abreast to the news. In the pre-market for New York, you have PPI, so this should probably send it in a direction with a lot of algorithmic quickness. The last time the PPI was in, it was very quick, pre-programmed almost. So let's go ahead and look at the momentum. Link in the description for more. momentummaster.info. Scroll down to features, toggle everything at your leisure, trend cloud, baseline, stochastic array, and more dynamic alerts to your phone so you can stay plugged in to every shift and pop and drop. So if we look at the daily sequence, we've reached the end of a rise up here on the daily time frame. Large amount of candles to the upside here, putting in a sequence of potential pivot. The last time we did that down here, we got a rise. So does this mean we get a daily pullback? The last time we had a sequence there, it started to pull back a little bit. So we'll see how does this daily treat us. So far on the daily time frame, looking like it could get a sequential pullback. Let's go ahead and look at the 3-day. 3-day had that cross up event, and we were looking at on the oscillator here the money flow beneath the RSI. Now, normal cases, when the money flow goes beneath the RSI, you get a push up to the RSI here. So does that mean this occurs again as the money flows out from the RSI here? Does it come up, or is it the rare case where the RSI comes down to the money flow? On the 3-day time frame, 3-day time frame, cloud is starting to taper slightly here. What do I mean by that? Well, the angle here is not exactly straight at 2 o'clock. It is starting to slightly change and point to that 3 o'clock region. We did get that bounce off the cloud at 38.8 and boom to the upside from there. Super trend still holding 15% away, so even if you come back to 42K, the bullish narrative is still on since October on the 3-day time frame. Coming to the daily. Daily is also getting this push and momentum. The baselines holding strong with no failure on them just yet. We pull a retrace tool from the last daily cloud down to the bottom here, and then we do a deep retrace here. These are some levels to look at. We're going to go into this in a minute, but let's first take a look at the oscillator here on the daily time frame. The money flow and the RSI pushed up into overbought areas, but as this gets going, it can stay up above the overbought level for some time in an almost unbelievable way. Same here with the Williams. As you get to the peaks and troughs up here, you can hold this for quite some time as long as you don't get the alarm cross. We had the Rising Sun event from Friday, January 26th. That is still going strong on the daily time frame. Okay, so watching to see how the weekend will treat us, and after this PPI we'll have a clear picture of whether the drift will continue to the upside or we will get a cross down event and potential pullback on the daily time frame. Coming lower to the 22, the treasured 22 of the broken time frames, getting the cross down event of the 22, failure of the to maintain above the baseline, suggestive of coming beneath and resetting on the 22. Stochastic already starting to come low. Is this a telegraph of what the daily wants to do and have this come lower? If you start to get a cross down event, you could get a little bit of a pullback on the 22-hour time frame. Overbought in many arenas, many oscillators on the 22. Coming to the 12-hour time frame, also flashing the idea of this cross down event, not yet crossing down, but how this 12-hour candle will close in the next 10 hours 59 minutes. In 11 hours time, basically in New York for that news, we will see how this candle closes. If it closes with a wick and then bearishness, then we could be seeing repricing to the downside. Looking at the oscillator, yeah, you have the money flow beneath the RSI. Do you get that push up with the money flow to the RSI, or the rare occasion where the RSI comes down to the money flow? All right, coming to the 6-hour time frame, starting to get some bearish divergence up here. You're getting a higher high and a lower high on the oscillator. So are we going to see a cascade of this cross down event of the Williams with the alarm and the baseline cross of the 6-hour time frame? The baselines are holding the price down as of this moment, so does it start to cascade like water flowing down a waterfall? That is the question. So taking this retrace tool and doing the nitty-gritty with that on here, some levels to watch out for at that 52.469. Do you see a fatigue at that for that shoulder to the downside play? Okay. Still a lot of liquidity up here that could possibly be aimed at that 53,205 region. So they could be engineering for another push up to 53K. So be very, very careful about your theories of downside projection. 4-hour time frame also has a keystone sequence here, and the cross down event of the 4-hour suggesting a pullback. Baselines above the price, possibly taking it lower. Lower even could just mean to that 49K point of control here, and still go higher. We'll play it day by day, hour by hour. First, before we go to the lower time frame, let's look at the oscillator once again on the 4-hour. 4-hour had this bearish divergence crystal lock in and starting to play out, possibly seeing this Williams cascade suppression of the 4-hour reset here. Got the money flow above the RSI, suggestive of some fatigue on the 4-hour time frame. Going to the hourly time frame. Let's go ahead and delete this. This is kind of what we were talking about yesterday. We talked about it pushing up, coming down, and then coming to here, if I'm not mistaken. So it's kind of like a day delayed, but we were talking about that happening on the hourly time frame. The hourly attempting to play out here after we get this bounce from 51.2 up to this 51.8 region, but the money flow is starting to come down to the RSI here. Do you get a push up? Lacking in volume on the hourly time frame. One thing to look at is this cloud. Cloud is starting to weaken in terms of buying pressure. What is the cloud? Well, if you go to the trend cloud and read about it, it's a volume weighted formula which expands and thins according to the amount of volume present in the asset. So there's volume lacking, so it's getting thinner, and then that angle curves, and then you see a bearish type retest of that idea here. Getting more particular into the ideas here. So do you come to that level? Possibly coming to the point of control over here, the volume, high volume node. Okay. So far you're holding the super trend. So your last line of defense on this hourly time frame is the super trend, and it's been holding pretty strong. You broke through it on Tuesday only to reclaim it and go higher. But before that, you were holding the super trend all the way since February 7th. So does this super trend hold, or do we break down for a liquidity grab again? Going to total. Let's go take a look at the total market cap. Total also getting a push up here. You had some nukes lock in on the hourly time frame, suggestive of overbought across 7 time frames. That is something to do in the stochastic array, monitoring 7 different time frames of information so you can get a deep insight without having to spend hours in the charts. Also at a keystone sequence here on the daily. The last time we got that, we didn't do anything on this October burst, but that was the first burst up after a long sideways consolidation. So coming up for another 9 sequence there, and then pulled back sharply from that daily for a 9% over 3 days pullback. Then we got another one down here at the bottom at that 38.8 and saw this sequence pull up. So does this mean we get a pause here, at least for a little bit, on the total market cap? Okay. Total 3 also reaching that level. We got above that 706 we were talking about, and coming up into the 1618, 551 billion on the altcoin market. Let's go see real quick what is crack-a-lacking on the altcoins in the week. Beam, Immutable, Rune, STX, BGB, Say, Tau, VeChain, Bonk, Lunacy. Lunacy is utter lunacy that people would want to trade it, but it is what it is. VeChain, XRP, Mana, Quant in the last day. In the last hour, Flow, and Blur, STX, and more. So do the altcoins get a little bit of a rally? Is BTC dominance pulling back before it got up to this level? It is starting to pull back from now. And you're getting the cross down event of the dominance here of Bitcoin. So does this mean that we're pulling back down to some levels here on the daily time frame? If so, are we starting to reclaim something here on the USDT dominance? At the bottom of a sequence here for the USDT dominance, last time we got a little bit of a bounce here, 10% bounce on USDT dominance. So do we get a little bit of a pullback on the markets? This is the last level we were talking about that we could come to, kind of some wicks from over here, some daily time frame zones, if you will. So that is kind of where we came down to here. So are we going to get a reclamation in test even bearishly these levels up here or not? There is a level to test at the 5.26% range if we go for USDT dominance. If the USDT dominance wants to rise, that means that people get knocked out into USDT. So there's this large breakdown from Wednesday as people inserted the USDT into trades. Do they alter that USDT and shift it into the altcoin market, maintaining this range, or do we get a cross-up event of the 12-hour lock-in? This next 12 hours going into the news is going to be interesting to set a tone for whether we continue or pull back a little bit. The PPI pre-market, it'll be pre-market an hour before open of New York. So keep your eyes peeled on that. And going to the dollar. So the dollar hit our target up here. We were talking about coming up here bullishly and possibly rejecting off of it. We rejected hard off of that level and came back, but we are still holding this range. Do we start to continue to our target to see if we flip this? If it does go up above and turn this, we could see a bullish narrative for the dollar. So this range over here at 105 is going to provide us with more clarity into the market. Looking at the 6 hour cross down event is inbound. Do we see this play out on the dollar? Looking at the 4 hour also as well. So it's been interesting. There's not a one-to-one correlation on the dollar with the indices and Bitcoin. It's been going up while they go up too. They've been disregarding what the dollar's about. It used to be more sensitive back in 2021. Now they don't correlate one-to-one anymore. The one thing I do notice is when Bitcoin goes up, NASDAQ tends to pull back. So having this drop here from Monday was having to do with Bitcoin going higher. So we're going to stop there. I'm not going to do the NASDAQ analysis. We'll save that for later. I have to go into work today, so we will deal with that after the stream. Okay, so seeing what we can do here is hold this super trend on the hourly or not. Fade at this cloud, even if we get a push up to here. Do we see a rejection wick at that 52,487 region? You do have some 52,487. You have some liquidity, the majority up in that 53K range if you were going into this region. You have a equal amount down to that 50,742, so an equal amount of liquidity here from this point, currently going up by the looks of it. So do we go up to grab some liquidity and reject off some mathematical confluence here or not? Let's go see if you have any questions or comments. All right, so that's my story and I'm sticking to it, looking for a reaction off of this. You have a 3 hits to the high kind of idea here, so just looking to see what might occur up in this region. You have some levels up here that are range bound confluence as well in that 53K level. So if we do break that, then we're possibly going up into this region, this wick on the weekly / daily consolidation level down at 53, up at 53,244. So all if then statements, if we reject, then possibly going to those regions. And that is my story and I'm sticking to it. The daily time frame keystone, what is it going to do? We have the 3-day that closed out, the next one in 2 days. So over the weekend we'll see a 3-day candle close. So the main thing at this moment in time in the Asian session right now, how does it react off of this cloud zone? The cloud getting thin. The last time we inverted it here, we did this inversion, so you can watch for this inversion / pullback. If we are going to be bullish, we could do this reclaim of the cloud and burst on through to that 53K and beyond. So if you're in another long, the one thing to monitor it would be on the lower time frame, and you see how this maintains and the bullish narrative begins on these smaller time frames with the cross up event of the baselines on the 5-minute, and you watch the super trend and the cloud hold and see how it reacts and or breaks down at the cloud. Going to the 15-minute. So the 15-minute reclaimed its cloud here. So are we going to see this reclamation and push up to that B level at 52,487? And then if it pulls back, it could reclaim. So before we say that C wave is definite, you could watch what it happens on the 15. Here's what happened down here. You had a reclaim of the cloud, the baselines crossed up, you held the super trend, and that would have told you, if you were in a short from up here, to possibly get out. The cross up of the baselines would have told you you're coming back to your entry, and bang, to the upside. So look for this to negate a bearish scenario. If you break through the super trend and continue, if you maintain this bearish super trend, then you're on that path to the C wave. If not, you could be going to 53K and beyond. And that is my story, and I'm sticking to it. So thank you for coming on into the live and sharing your essence with me in this eternal moment of which we all share an inextricable and inexorable part. Thank you for doing your part, for coming on in each and every day, and we'll do the same, bringing the fire, the actually